Maya Thompson, a black CEO, is humiliated in first class when a flight attendant rips her ticket and a passenger claims she doesn't belong. They don't realize she runs the tech company powering the entire airline. Calmly, Maya records the abuse, and the viral video crashes the airline's stock. Hours later, she storms the boardroom, demanding change, fire the racist staff, and end bias. Or she shuts down their booking system with a single command. Cornered, the airline caves, and Maya forces through a bold, fair sky program, turning humiliation into lasting justice. The humiliated Maya Thompson, a black CEO with the bold and ambitious tech company behind the world's largest airline, sat in her first-class seat on board a flight to London. As she looked out at the bustling terminal, her heart was pounding like through her veins, fear gripping every nerve ending. The stewardess approached her table, bearing an accusatory glare as if daring Maya to prove her innocence. "You know what I just witnessed?" asked the flight attendants, their voices low and menacing behind a veil of professionalism. "A passenger has accused you of not belonging on this plane. He claims that your company's systems are responsible for causing discomfort and disempowerment among passengers." Maya gasped in disbelief as she tried to suppress her tears, but it was too late. The stewardess turned around with a scowl, revealing a pair of piercing green eyes that glinted behind thick frames. "I'm afraid you may have misinterpreted the situation," Maya said firmly. "My company is known for providing exceptional service and accommodations to all passengers regardless of their race or ethnicity." The passenger's response was swift but resounding. "Don't even try to make excuses for your actions, Miss Thompson. You've been discriminated against in this airline before. Your tech systems have perpetuated racist stereotypes and contributed to the dehumanizing treatment of black customers." Maya felt a surge of anger and frustration wash over her as she remembered instances where her company had faced similar accusations. She knew that these incidents were not isolated, but rather reflective of larger societal biases against people of color. "Absolutely," Maya replied, her voice shaking with determination. "We take accountability for our actions and strive to create a more inclusive environment for all passengers. That includes addressing any issues or complaints raised during flights." The passenger continued his accusations, muttering under his breath about the airline's lack of diversity initiatives and tokenistic gestures. "You can't just brush it off like that," he spat out. "Your company is contributing to systemic racism in this country, plain and simple." Maya felt a pang of nausea as she realized her mistake in assuming that they were simply addressing one individual incident rather than the larger issue at hand. She knew that their actions could have far-reaching consequences for not only her business, but also for countless black communities across the globe. "I understand your perspective," Maya replied, trying to defuse the situation with a calm and measured tone. "But it's time we take action to address this systemic problem rather than just dealing with individual incidents." With that, she turned back to the passenger and began to outline her proposal for change. She explained that their tech systems needed an overhaul to ensure fairness in reservations, check-in processes, and onboard experiences. This would involve implementing a range of initiatives such as 1. Implementing a diverse hiring process. The company must prioritize candidates from underrepresented communities when recruiting new employees. 2. Conducting regular training sessions on cultural awareness and sensitivity for staff members. This will help them better understand the perspectives and experiences of black customers, reducing biases in their interactions with passengers. 3. Providing unconscious bias assessments to all employees. Employees should undergo mandatory training to identify and challenge any personal or systemic prejudices they may hold towards people from different backgrounds. 4. Implementing a more inclusive reservation system that takes into account diverse booking preferences. This could involve providing alternative forms of payment, such as cryptocurrencies, credit cards with loyalty points, or offering flexible seating options based on mobility need. The passenger listened intently to Maya's proposal and nodded thoughtfully before speaking up again. "You know what?" he said. "I understand where you're coming from, but I think we need a more comprehensive approach than just implementing individual changes." Maya shook her head with determination as she knew that their proposed reforms were not small steps, but rather a necessary revolution for creating an equitable airline for all passengers. She nodded at the passenger and began to outline the next phase of their plan. 1. Engage stakeholders. The company should involve Black-owned businesses, advocacy groups, and other relevant organizations in discussions about the Fair Sky program. 2. Conduct a comprehensive review of existing processes. This will help identify any gaps or areas for improvement and ensure that Maya's proposals align with current industry standards. The passenger nodded again as Maya continued her presentation, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He knew that change would not be easy, but he was willing to do whatever it took to make a difference. "All right," he said finally, determination etched in his voice. "Let's get started on this program together." Maya smiled, grateful for the passenger's willingness to engage with her proposal and work towards creating a fairer airline for all passengers. With each step forward, she knew that they were one step closer to eliminating systemic racism from their industry and ensuring that every person had equal access to quality travel experiences. Black CEO's office. Day Maya Thompson, a Black executive at the forefront of a global revolution for creating an equitable airline for all passengers, sat behind her desk, surrounded by stacks of papers and notes. She had been working on the Fair Sky program since its inception, but today was the day she would present to key stakeholders about their proposed changes. Maya's hand reached out as she began speaking. "As we look towards creating a fairer airline for all passengers, it is crucial that our industry takes an active role in engaging with Black-owned businesses and advocacy groups. This will not only help ensure that the program reflects the needs of marginalized communities, but also provide a platform for them to share their perspectives and ideas." The first step in this initiative would be to engage stakeholders. Maya's team will reach out to local chapters of the National Association of African American Travel Agents, Black Business Owners Alliance, BBOA, and other relevant organizations that represent Black-owned businesses in our industry. These groups are key partners in shaping the Fair Sky program and have a unique understanding of the challenges faced by Black passengers on our airline. We will hold meetings with these stakeholders to discuss their concerns about current processes at our company, including ticketing procedures, baggage handling, and other aspects that may disproportionately affect marginalized communities. By engaging with these groups, we can identify areas where we need to improve and ensure that our proposals align with industry standards. One of the key priorities in this program is conducting a comprehensive review of existing processes. This will involve analyzing data on passenger demographics, travel patterns, and ticketing practices across all flights to identify any gaps or areas for improvement. By understanding these factors, Maya's team can develop tailored solutions that address the unique needs of Black passengers. The results of our analysis will be presented to key stakeholders in a series of workshops and meetings, where we will discuss how they can best support the implementation of this program. These workshops will not only provide an opportunity for feedback from attendees, but also serve as a platform for dialogue and collaboration among different groups within the airline industry. During these sessions, Maya will outline the following phases of the Fair Sky program. 1. Enhancing ticketing processes. This will involve streamlining ticket purchasing procedures to reduce wait times and increase access for Black passengers who may face longer check-in lines or limited availability on certain days. We will also explore options for providing more flexible payment methods, such as mobile payments, that cater specifically to the needs of Black travelers. 2. Improving baggage handling. Maya's team will review existing bag policies and guidelines to ensure they address the unique challenges faced by Black passengers when traveling with carry-on luggage or oversized items. This may include implementing measures like weight limits for bags, providing assistance at check-in counters, and offering more spacious cabin storage bins in premium cabins. 3. Addressing discrimination. To eliminate systemic racism from our industry, we will work closely with the U.S. Civil Rights Commission to develop a comprehensive plan that addresses issues such as racial profiling by airport security personnel, discriminatory baggage policies, and unfair treatment of passengers based on race or ethnicity. This may involve providing additional training for employees, implementing enhanced screening procedures, and partnering with external organizations to enforce anti-discrimination laws. 4. Ensuring fair pricing. We will review the pricing structure for flights and packages across all airlines, taking into account factors such as flight distance, time of day, and other variables that affect Black passengers' travel experiences. By providing more affordable options, we can make our airline accessible to a wider range of customers while still maintaining high levels of service. 5. Partnering with communities. We will collaborate with local community organizations that serve underrepresented groups in the United States, such as African American churches and cultural centers, to promote awareness about the Fair Sky program and provide resources for travelers who may be unfamiliar or hesitant about taking a direct flight. This could include offering introductory packages, providing language assistance at check-in counters, and hosting events and workshops focused on diversity and inclusion. As we continue our work towards implementing this program, Maya's team will also prioritize ongoing evaluation and refinement of our plans to ensure that they are achieving their goals effectively. We will regularly gather feedback from stakeholders, analyze the results of our review processes, and make adjustments as needed based on new insights and emerging challenges. Throughout the implementation process, we will work closely with key partners in the airline industry, including airlines, travel agents, ground handlers, baggage carriers, and other service providers to ensure that all aspects of our program are seamlessly integrated. This collaboration is essential for ensuring that the Fair Sky program achieves its objectives not only on a macro level, but also at a local level. In conclusion, Maya Thompson's vision for creating an equitable airline for all passengers requires a multifaceted approach involving engagement with diverse stakeholders, comprehensive review of existing processes, addressing discrimination and systemic racism in our industry, ensuring fair pricing, partnering with communities, and ongoing evaluation. As we embark on this journey towards a more inclusive and accessible travel experience, Maya's team remains committed to prioritizing the needs and perspectives of marginalized communities while working tirelessly to create a world where every passenger has equal access to quality air travel. And Maya Thompson, a Black CEO of a major airline company, finds herself humiliated in the first-class cabin when a flight attendant tears her ticket and another passenger claims she doesn't belong. It's not until they realize that Maya runs the tech company powering the entire airline that the incident becomes more apparent. The impact is far-reaching. On board, Maya receives numerous stares from other passengers who question why she should be sitting in first class when the majority of seats are reserved for white flyers. Their reactions show a deep-seated sense of mistrust and distrust towards Black people, perpetuating an already ingrained racial divide within the airline industry. As they watch her struggle to find space on their assigned seat next to a middle-aged man with dark skin and glasses, Maya's colleagues begin murmuring behind her, whispering token, concerned, or simply avoiding eye contact altogether. The flight attendant's behavior escalates when one of them attempts to physically remove Maya from the first-class section. She protests loudly, demanding that they respect the company's policies and ensure fairness for all passengers. Her voice echoes through the cabin, resonating with those who have been subjected to similar discrimination in previous flights. In response, her colleagues retreat into their respective corners, muttering under their breath and exchanging looks of disbelief. Maya knows better than to let this incident continue unchecked. She decides to take matters into her own hands by addressing the issue head-on when she returns home from work that day. She reaches out to a group of Black business leaders who run successful companies in various industries, including tech, finance, and healthcare, for advice on how to address these systemic issues within their own organizations. Their conversation takes place over coffee at a local cafe, where Maya shares her concerns about the airline's practices and the impact they're having on minority passengers. She emphasizes that it's not just about seating arrangements. Discrimination in the industry as a whole can lead to decreased consumer confidence, reduced travel demand, and ultimately, negative economic impacts for all. The Black business leaders offer several suggestions. First, conduct regular audits of their own operations to identify any instances of racism or bias among employees. This could involve reviewing hiring practices, training materials, and employee feedback surveys to ensure that diversity and inclusion are top of mind in every department. Second, partner with local community organizations that advocate for Black rights and promote equitable access to travel opportunities within the airline industry. These groups can provide a platform for marginalized communities to voice their concerns and influence policy changes. In addition, Maya suggests implementing unconscious bias training programs for employees and leadership roles to address systemic issues at all levels of the organization. This includes workshops on cultural differences, empathy, and understanding, as well as mandatory diversity and inclusion courses for managers and supervisors. Furthermore, Maya emphasizes that airlines must prioritize fair pricing for marginalized passengers by offering discounts or promotions based on their race, income level, or other factors. For example, Black flyers could receive a 10% discount when purchasing tickets to specific destinations that are disproportionately represented by minority communities. This would not only benefit low-income individuals, but also stimulate travel demand and revenue growth. To ensure widespread adoption of these recommendations, Maya works with the airline industry's regulatory bodies, such as aviation authorities and federal agencies. She presents her proposals in meetings and workshops with key stakeholders, advocating for greater oversight, enforcement, and support for anti-discrimination policies within the sector. The conversation is not without challenges. However, some airlines are resistant to change due to concerns about cost savings or a perceived loss of revenue from minority passengers. Despite these obstacles, Maya remains resolute in her mission to create an equitable airline that respects all customers, regardless of their race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic status. She reaches out to the airline's leadership team, explaining how the Fair Sky program aims not only to address discrimination, but also to foster a more inclusive culture within the company. They agree on her vision and begin working together to implement these changes across the organization. This involves updating job descriptions, creating diversity and inclusion policies, implementing training programs for employees and leadership roles, setting targets for minority passenger benefits, and establishing partnerships with community organizations. As Maya embarks on this journey towards a more inclusive travel experience, she faces numerous obstacles but remains undeterred by adversity. Her commitment to equity is not just about the passengers who fly in her plane. It's also about creating a world where every traveler has access to high-quality air travel that respects their rights and fosters a sense of belonging. The Fair Sky program, with its comprehensive approach involving engagement with diverse stakeholders, comprehensive review of existing processes, addressing discrimination and systemic racism within the industry, ensuring fair pricing, partnering with communities, and ongoing evaluation, represents an important step towards creating a more equitable airline for all passengers. By prioritizing equity and inclusivity from conception to implementation, Maya's team works tirelessly to create a world where every passenger has equal access to quality air travel. Maya Thompson, a Black CEO, stood on the first-class seat of her aircraft as she watched an attendant rip off her ticket. Her heart sank when she realized that it was for no apparent reason. As she searched through her belongings, trying to find something small enough to replace it, she noticed two women standing at the gate, one with a bag in hand and the other holding a laptop. "I'm Maya Thompson." She introduced herself as the CEO of XYZ Flight. "We're working on implementing some changes across our organization that will make travel more inclusive for all passengers." The women looked over from their seats, puzzled by her sudden appearance. They quickly realized that Maya was not just any Black woman. She was a tech visionary and leader who had been instrumental in the success of XYZ Flight. "I'm sorry if I interrupted your flight," Maya said with a smile. "I've noticed some issues with the seating arrangements on this particular aircraft, particularly for those without first-class seats." The two women exchanged looks before one stepped forward to address her concerns. The woman identified as Sarah, a travel enthusiast who had been traveling in business class for years and had often complained about uncomfortable seating configurations. "I understand that our current policy might not be ideal," she said, "but we're taking steps to make the first-class experience more accessible for all passengers." Maya's eyes widened with surprise at hearing this news. It was clear from Sarah's words that there were indeed issues with the airline's layout and seating arrangements, particularly among Black travelers. "I've noticed a lot of racial biases in our industry," she continued, "and I think it's time we address them head-on." Sarah nodded eagerly as Maya explained her vision for the Fair Sky program. The program would involve engaging with diverse stakeholders to understand the challenges faced by different groups of passengers and addressing discrimination and systemic racism within the airline. "I want to create a world where every traveler has access to high-quality air travel that respects their rights," she said, "and fosters a sense of belonging." Maya was intrigued by Sarah's passion for equity and inclusivity. She knew that implementing such changes would not be an easy task, but it was crucial if they were going to make a real difference in the lives of Black passengers. "The Fair Sky program will involve several key elements," Maya said. "Firstly, we'll need to review our existing processes and procedures to identify areas where discrimination may occur. This could include changes to job descriptions, training programs for employees and leadership roles, setting targets for minority passenger benefits, and establishing partnerships with community organizations." Sarah nodded in agreement as Maya continued. "We also want to establish a comprehensive review of current seating arrangements on the aircraft," she said. "We need to ensure that every seat is designed with accessibility in mind, and that Black travelers have equal access to first-class seats. This may involve adjusting the layout, adding more spacious seats, or providing additional amenities like blankets and pillows." Maya's eyes met Sarah's as she considered her words. She knew that this was an ambitious goal, but one that could make a significant impact on the lives of passengers who had long struggled for equal access to air travel. "I understand your concerns," Maya said, "and I'm committed to working with our airline partners and communities to make these changes happen." Sarah smiled widely, grateful for Maya's dedication to equity and inclusivity. She knew that it would not be an easy journey, but one worth pursuing, especially if they were going to create a world where every passenger has equal access to quality air travel. As the flight took off, Sarah looked around at her fellow passengers, each with their own stories of discrimination and inequality in the airline industry. But she felt empowered by Maya's vision for Fair Sky and knew that together, they could make a real difference in creating a more equitable world for all travelers. Maya Thompson, a Black CEO of Fair Sky, had always been dedicated to creating equal access to air travel for all passengers. As the plane took off from New York's JFK International Airport, she was excited about her mission as head of one of the largest and most technologically advanced airlines in the world. The first-class seats on board were spacious and luxurious, with comfortable rows of seating arranged around a large central table. Maya had spent weeks working with her team to ensure that these seats were not only aesthetically pleasing, but also functional for all passengers who would be traveling together. She had designed them to offer ample legroom, reclining angles, and plenty of space for personal items like laptops or tablets. As the plane took off into the sky, Maya looked out at the breathtaking views below her. The landscape was a mix of bustling cities and rolling hills, with skyscrapers stretching up high in the distance. She couldn't help but feel grateful to be traveling on Fair Sky's fleet, which had been designed specifically for high-end travel experiences. But as she settled into her seat and took out her laptop, Maya noticed something strange. One of the attendants was sitting across from her at a different table than Sarah, the CEO of Fair Sky. Sarah looked up with surprise when she saw Mayank Thompson in his first-class seat, wearing a sleek black suit and carrying a briefcase. Maya couldn't help but feel a twinge of jealousy as she realized that Sarah had taken such an important step to ensure equal access for all passengers on the plane. She knew that her company was making strides towards creating a more inclusive industry, but it wasn't until this moment that she truly understood just how far they were reaching. Maya smiled at Sarah's expression and made eye contact with her. "Hello," she said, extending an open hand out to him. "I'm Maya Thompson, the CEO of Fair Sky." Sarah looked up from his laptop, surprised by Mayank's familiarity. She had never met this man before in person, but knew that he was a key player in shaping Fair Sky's future. "Nice to meet you," Sarah replied. "Mayank, I wanted to talk to you about something important regarding our fair access policy." Maya nodded eagerly and took out her briefcase from the seat next to hers. She pulled out several documents, including one that outlined a new set of regulations for first-class passengers, a requirement that all attendants must be trained on diversity, equity, and inclusion policies before working in any role at Fair Sky. Sarah's eyes widened as she read through Maya's proposal, impressed by the company's commitment to creating an inclusive workplace. "That sounds like a great initiative," she said. "I think it's important for all industries to prioritize these values, not just airlines." Maya nodded, feeling proud of her leadership and its potential impact on Fair Sky's passengers. She knew that there were still many challenges ahead in the airline industry, but with Sarah by their side, they could make significant strides towards creating a more equitable world. The plane continued flying through the clouds as Maya reflected on the conversation she had just held with Mayank. She realized that this new policy was not only about making sure all passengers have equal access to first-class seats, but also about creating an inclusive workplace culture where everyone feels valued and respected. It wasn't always easy for companies like Fairsky to navigate these complex issues, but Maya knew that they were taking a crucial step towards becoming the best airline in the world. As she looked out at the horizon again, Mayank handed her his hand and said, "Maya, I appreciate your leadership on this issue. It's clear that we have a long way to go, but with you as our CEO, we can make sure that Fairsky is always pushing towards equity and inclusivity." With those words of encouragement, Maya smiled back at him and closed her laptop, feeling grateful for the opportunity to work alongside such an inspiring team. Fairsky's future. The new policies in first class. Maya Thompson, CEO of Fairsky, had never been more excited about her company's future. With a new set of regulations requiring all attendants to be trained on diversity, equity, and inclusion policies before working at the airline, she knew that they were taking a crucial step towards creating an inclusive workplace culture where everyone feels valued and respected. Maya was proud of her leadership in this initiative, as it not only addressed one of Fairsky's biggest challenges, but also set a new standard for other industries to follow. She had always believed that every individual has the right to ACC's equal opportunities and resources, regardless of their background or circumstances. As Mayank Thompson took out his briefcase from his seat next to Maya, they shared a handshake as he explained the details behind Fairsky's new policies. He emphasized the importance of creating a safe and welcoming environment for all passengers, including those who may have faced discrimination in the past, but now had equal access to first-class seats. Maya listened intently, feeling inspired by Mayank's passion and dedication. She knew that this wasn't just about making Fairsky more inclusive. It was also about inspiring others to follow her lead and creating a world where everyone felt valued and respected. Over the next few weeks, Fairsky implemented these new policies across all of its departments, from customer service to training programs for attendants. They worked closely with community organizations and airlines around the globe to ensure that their new approach was culturally sensitive and tailored to different markets. As Maya looked out at her bustling office, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in the impact her company was making on the world. With Fairsky's growing reputation for prioritizing equity and inclusivity, they were becoming an industry leader in creating a more accessible future for all travelers. Maya knew that there would be challenges along the way, as not everyone could afford to travel by first class or had access to the resources necessary to attend training programs. But she was confident that with Mayank's vision at the helm and their commitment to making Fairsky an example of how change can happen in industries, they were well on their way towards a more equitable world. Fairsky's future. A global journey. Maya Thompson continued her global journey as CEO of Fairsky, traveling to multiple countries around the world to discuss their new policies and share its impact with other airlines. She was inspired by the stories she heard from passengers who had been impacted by Fairsky's efforts and knew that they were making a real difference in people's lives. In Japan, Maya met an elderly Japanese traveler named Haozaki, who had been traveling on Fairsky for years but had faced challenges accessing first-class seats due to her age. Despite the language barrier, Maya was able to explain their new policies and work with Haozaki to arrange a special flight for her that included access to first-class seats. In Spain, Maya met a young Spanish traveler named Maria, who had been struggling to obtain fair access to airline tickets before Fairsky's policy came into effect. She spoke glowingly about how the company's efforts had made it possible for her to travel without worrying about being discriminated against or unable to afford premium seating. Maya was moved by these stories and knew that they were an inspiration to others who faced similar challenges in their travels. She encouraged Fairsky to continue innovating and implementing new policies, knowing that change could happen when people like Haruhozaki, Maria, and other travelers feel valued and respected. As Maya traveled around the world, she encountered many different cultures and backgrounds, each with their own unique perspectives on equity and inclusion in the airline industry. She met passengers from all walks of life, including those who had faced discrimination or prejudice, but now had equal access to first-class seats, as well as those who were working hard to promote diversity and inclusivity. Despite these challenges, Maya remained committed to Fairsky's vision of creating a more equitable world for everyone. She knew that it would take time and effort, but she was determined to make the changes necessary to ensure that every passenger has equal access to quality air travel. Fairsky's future. The final push. Maya Thompson continued her global journey as CEO of Fairsky, working tirelessly towards implementing their new policies on a larger scale. They worked with airlines around the world to share Fairsky's approach and demonstrate its value in creating an inclusive workplace culture that prioritized equity and inclusivity. In the United Kingdom, Maya met a group of travel agents who were frustrated by the limitations imposed by airline companies due to unfair pricing for first-class seats. She listened intently as they discussed their concerns and worked with Fairsky to create a new policy that allowed them to offer discounted fares for passengers traveling in first class at premium rates. In Brazil, Maya met a group of airline employees who were struggling to balance the demands of providing fair access to tickets while also dealing with the challenges of racial discrimination within their company. She spoke directly to these individuals and helped to address their concerns by implementing new policies that addressed issues such as unconscious bias training for attendants and employee diversity initiatives. In China, Maya met a group of travelers who had been frustrated by the lack of accessibility in first-class seats at Chinese airports due to language barriers. She worked. Maya Thompson, a Black CEO and the founder of Fairsky, found herself humiliated in first class during an international flight. The incident occurred when her flight attendant ripped her ticket mid-flight, leaving her stranded without any way to return home. As she boarded the plane, Maya couldn't help but feel like a stranger among the sea of passengers who were eagerly awaiting their seats. As they settled into their rows and began taking out laptops for work, Maya noticed that a passenger in front of her had taken over her seat. She tried to politely request another one, but the man refused, claiming he was traveling business class and didn't need first-class seating. Maya's anger grew as she realized this wasn't an isolated incident. Many other passengers seemed to be taking advantage of Fairsky's inclusive policy by simply changing seats whenever they felt like it. She tried to speak up about her concerns with the flight attendant, but their conversation was cut short when a male passenger stepped in and demanded that Maya sit next to him. Maya struggled to maintain composure as she found herself seated alongside this unfamiliar man, who appeared to be middle-aged with thick glasses and an air of confidence. Despite his demeanor, Maya could sense his discomfort with her presence, and the tension between them grew palpable. As they settled into their seats, Maya tried to strike a conversation, but it was clear that their shared experiences had made them wary. The flight attendants began to notice the unease in the cabin as well, and several asked if there were any issues or concerns about seating arrangements before taking off. Maya explained her policy for first-class passengers, which allowed premium seats at premium rates to be available for passengers traveling with a certain level of financial means. However, she also emphasized that Fairsky's approach was inclusive not just for those with significant income, but also for individuals who wanted the benefits of first-class travel without having to pay exorbitant prices. As Maya continued her explanation, she noticed that some of the other passengers in the cabin began to nod and make nods behind her. They seemed impressed by Fairsky's commitment to equity and inclusivity and were eager to learn more about its approach. However, as the flight took off, Maya realized that they had been caught up in a larger conversation about airline policies and racial discrimination. The man who refused her first-class seat, along with other passengers who expressed their frustration with unfair pricing for first-class seats, began to speak out against Fairsky's policy. They argued that it was discriminatory towards those with lower incomes and should be revised or even eliminated altogether in order to create a more equitable workplace culture. Maya listened intently as they spoke, understanding the sentiment behind their concerns. As she continued her explanation about Fairsky's approach, Maya also shared some personal experiences of being black at work and how it had made navigating the airline industry challenging. She explained that many companies were hesitant to embrace diversity and inclusivity because of fears of discrimination or backlash from employees who felt uncomfortable with the idea of their race making a difference in business operations. Maya's words resonated with the other passengers, as they began to reflect on how similar experiences had affected them too. Some expressed empathy for Maya's struggles, while others offered suggestions for alternative policies that could still provide equitable access to first-class travel without infringing upon airline profitability or fair pricing practices. As the conversation continued throughout the flight, Fairsky and its allies were able to build a coalition of support for their policy, with passengers from various backgrounds coming together to voice their concerns and advocate for change. Maya herself became an unlikely hero in this story, using her platform as a CEO to raise awareness about issues related to racial discrimination within the airline industry. The flight attendant who initially refused Maya's request returned to her desk that day, ready to implement Fairsky's new policy into their operations. She explained that the revised seating arrangement would allow premium seats at premium rates to be available for passengers traveling with a certain level of financial means, but also provided options for those with lower incomes to book first-class tickets in advance. Maya was elated by this news, as she knew firsthand how difficult it had been for her and other black flight attendants to navigate the airline industry without compromising on their job security. She thanked Fairsky's allies for standing up for equity and inclusivity, and promised that they would continue to work towards creating a more inclusive workplace culture for all employees. As Maya landed back in New York City after a successful advocacy campaign, she felt a renewed sense of pride and purpose. The passengers who had against Fairsky's policy were now advocating for their own rights as equal members of society, and the airline industry was beginning to take notice of her leadership efforts. Maya knew that there would always be challenges ahead in creating an equitable workplace culture, but she also felt confident that with her company's commitment to fairness, inclusivity, and diversity, they could make a difference. As she looked out at the bustling airport terminal, Maya smiled, knowing that even as the world continued to progress towards greater equality and acceptance, there was still work to be done in creating a truly inclusive space for all people, regardless of their race or background. Maya Thompson, a black CEO of Fairsky Airlines, had always been committed to creating a diverse and inclusive workplace culture for all employees. As she took off from London on her first flight as the company's new president, Maya knew that there would be challenges ahead in navigating the complex landscape of airline industry politics. The other black flight attendants on board were seasoned professionals who had worked at Fairsky long enough to understand the importance of maintaining a work environment free from discrimination and bias. They respected Maya's leadership style, which emphasized empathy, fairness, and transparency, and they supported her advocacy efforts for creating an equitable workplace culture that valued diversity and inclusion. Maya thanked Fairsky's allies for standing up for equity and inclusivity and promised to continue to work towards creating a more inclusive workspace for all employees. As she landed back in New York City after a successful advocacy campaign, Maya felt a renewed sense of pride and purpose. The passengers who had against Fairsky policy were now advocating for their own rights as equal members of society, and the airline industry was beginning to take notice of her leadership efforts. Maya knew that there would always be challenges ahead in creating an equitable workplace culture, but she also felt confident that with her company's commitment to fairness, inclusivity, and diversity, they could make a difference. As she looked out at the bustling airport terminal, Maya smiled, knowing that even as the world continued to progress towards greater equality and acceptance, there was still work to be done in creating a truly inclusive space for all people, regardless of their race or background. Maya's first priority was addressing the issue with the flight attendants who had been critical of Fairsky's policy. She understood how sensitive this issue could be on a predominantly black-owned airline, and she wanted to ensure that everyone on board felt heard and respected. Maya scheduled a meeting with the affected employees in private, where they discussed their concerns about Fairsky's practices and shared their stories. Maya listened attentively as each flight attendant expressed their experiences of being treated differently based on their race or gender. They spoke of instances when they were overlooked for promotions or opportunities, unfair disciplinary actions, and even outright discrimination within the workplace culture. Maya empathized with their pain and frustration, acknowledging that these challenges faced by black employees in airline industry were not unique to Fairsky. As the meeting progressed, Maya acknowledged the impact of fair treatment on everyone involved, including passengers who had supported Fairsky's policy. She acknowledged that creating an inclusive work environment was essential for ensuring a diverse workforce that could deliver innovative solutions and provide high-quality services to their customers. Maya explained that Fairsky's commitment to diversity and inclusion not only extended beyond its policies, but also in the hiring practices and training programs it offered. The company had made efforts to recruit and train employees from diverse backgrounds, including black flight attendants, which helped break down barriers and provided opportunities for growth and development within the organization. Maya emphasized that Fairsky's policy of allowing all employees to have equal access to promotions based on meritocracy was essential in creating a fair workplace culture. She acknowledged that sometimes it takes time to build trust and recognition among diverse groups, but she knew that by prioritizing diversity, Fairsky would be better positioned to attract and retain top talent from various backgrounds. Maya also touched on the issue of unconscious bias and how it could impact hiring decisions in airline industry. She explained that biases can stem from societal stereotypes, cultural norms, or personal experiences, which can affect the way people perceive and evaluate candidates based on their race, gender, sexual orientation, or other characteristics. Maya highlighted the importance of conducting thorough background checks, including reviewing resumes, references, and performance evaluations, to eliminate any potential unconscious bias in hiring decisions. Maya acknowledged that creating a diverse work environment was not just about addressing individual issues, but also about building a culture where employees felt valued, respected, and heard. She emphasized that Fairsky's commitment to diversity training for its workforce would help educate employees on the importance of recognizing their own biases and promoting empathy towards others from different backgrounds. As Maya closed her meeting with the flight attendants, she acknowledged their contributions and thanked them for sharing their stories. She promised to continue working alongside them to create a more inclusive workplace culture that celebrated diversity while delivering exceptional services to its customers. Maya then turned her attention to addressing the concerns of other employees who had been affected by Fairsky's policy change. They shared their experiences of feeling undervalued or ignored, and Maya empathized with their pain. She acknowledged that sometimes it takes time for employees to adapt to new policies and procedures, but she encouraged them not to give up on advocating for fair treatment. Maya reassured the employees that Fairsky was committed to creating a safe environment where everyone felt respected and valued. She emphasized that they were part of a community of colleagues who shared similar values and goals, and together, they could work towards achieving a more inclusive workplace culture. With this in mind, Maya scheduled another meeting with her team to discuss the next steps forward. They reviewed the feedback from flight attendants and other employees, identified areas for improvement within Fairsky's policies and procedures, and determined how best to address their concerns effectively. Maya worked closely with her leadership team to develop a comprehensive plan that addressed the root causes of discrimination in airline industry culture, while also implementing targeted interventions to promote diversity, inclusion, and equity. The plan included 1. Establishing an inclusive hiring committee. Maya appointed a diverse group of employees from various departments to serve as members of the Inclusive Hiring Committee, which would be responsible for reviewing Fairsky's hiring practices and making recommendations for improvements. 2. Providing diversity training. Fairsky would offer regular diversity training sessions for all employees, including flight attendants, mechanics, pilots, and other relevant staff. The training programs would cover topics such as unconscious bias awareness, cultural competence, inclusive language use, and effective communication skills to help employees better understand their biases and promote empathy towards others. 3. Implementing diversity metrics. Fairsky would establish a set of diversity metrics that would be used to track progress toward creating an equitable workplace culture. These metrics could include employee demographics, retention rates, promotions, and feedback from customers about the company's commitment to diversity and inclusion. 4. Encouraging employee feedback. Maya encouraged employees to provide regular feedback on Fairsky's policies and procedures related to diversity, inclusivity, and equity. This feedback would be used to identify areas for improvement and ensure that changes were implemented promptly. 5. Establishing a diversity council. Maya established a diversity council within the company that would consist of representatives from different departments and stakeholder groups. The council would provide an external on Fairsky's diversity efforts and offer suggestions for further initiatives to promote inclusivity, equity, and respect in the workplace culture. 6. Celebrating diversity. Fairsky would celebrate diversity by recognizing employees who have demonstrated a commitment to creating inclusive work environments through various events such as Black History Month celebrations, LGBTQ+ Pride Month campaigns, or cultural awareness training sessions. 7. Regular performance evaluations. Fairsky's leadership team would conduct regular performance evaluations that included an assessment of the company's progress towards promoting diversity and inclusion in all aspects of its operations. These evaluations would provide insights into areas for improvement and help identify employees who were making a positive impact on the culture. Maya acknowledged that creating a diverse workplace culture was not just about addressing individual issues, but also about building a community where everyone felt valued, respected, and heard. She emphasized that Fairsky's commitment to diversity training for its workforce would help educate employees on the importance of recognizing their own biases and promoting empathy towards others from different backgrounds. With this in mind, Maya worked closely with her leadership team to develop a comprehensive plan that addressed the root causes of discrimination in airline industry culture while also implementing targeted interventions to promote diversity, inclusion, and equity. The plan included 1. Establishing an inclusive hiring committee. Maya appointed a diverse group of employees from various departments to serve as members of the Inclusive Hiring Committee, which would be responsible for reviewing Fairsky's hiring practices and making recommendations for improvements. 2. Providing diversity training. Fairsky would offer regular diversity training sessions for all employees, including flight attendants, mechanics, pilots, and other relevant staff. The training programs would cover topics such as unconscious bias awareness, cultural competence, inclusive language use, and effective communication skills to help employees better understand their biases and promote empathy towards others from different backgrounds. 3. Implementing diversity metrics. Fairsky would establish a set of diversity metrics that would be used to track progress toward creating an equitable workplace culture. These metrics could include employee demographics, retention rates, promotions, and feedback from customers about the company's commitment to diversity and inclusion. 4. Encouraging employee feedback. Maya encouraged employees to provide regular feedback on Fairsky's policies and procedures related to diversity, inclusivity, and equity. This feedback would be used to identify areas for improvement and ensure that changes were implemented promptly. 5. Establishing a diversity council. Maya established a diversity council within the company that would consist of representatives from different departments and stakeholder groups. The council would provide an external on Fairsky's diversity efforts and offer suggestions for further initiatives to promote inclusivity, equity, and respect in the workplace culture. 6. Celebrating diversity. Fairsky would. Global outline. 1. Maya Thompson, a black CEO, is humiliated in first class when a flight attendant rips her ticket and a passenger claims she doesn't belong. They don't realize that she runs the tech company powering the entire airline. 2. The incident takes place on Unit Ed Airline's Flight 986 from Los Angeles to New York City, with Maya Thompson as the CEO of Fairsky, a leading technology firm that provides cloud-based solutions for businesses and governments worldwide. As the flight took off, passengers boarded their seats one by one, ensuring they were properly seated before taking out their boarding passes. 3. Among the first few rows, Maya's colleague, Captain Diego Petrov's Sofia Mancini, was busy with his work on the plane's in-flight entertainment system when a middle-aged woman approached him and asked to switch places with her. He hesitated at first, but eventually agreed, respecting the request of an individual who might be feeling uncomfortable or uncertain about their seat assignment. 4. As Maya took her place in row 10E, she noticed that there were several women scattered across the rows, most of whom were middle-aged and wore business attire. However, one young woman appeared to have a bit more casual clothing on, standing next to an older man who was reading a book. She introduced herself as Sarah, a graphic designer from London with a passion for creating visually appealing designs. 5. Despite her initial reservations, Maya decided to strike up conversations with the women in row 10E and found them engaging and interesting. They shared their personal stories about traveling on airplanes during various stages of life and what it was like being part of diverse work environments. Sarah's story particularly resonated with Maya, as she had also experienced similar challenges growing up, where she felt excluded from her peers due to her race. 6. As they continued chatting, the flight attendant approached them to check their boarding passes. When asked if there were any particular seat preferences or requirements for passengers of different genders or ethnicities, both Sarah and the middle-aged woman mentioned that they preferred to sit together in an aisle opposite each other, given their shared background as creative professionals. 7. The flight attendants seemed surprised by Maya's request, but quickly adjusted her seating plan accordingly. They assigned them a seat in row 10E next to one another, ensuring that both of them could comfortably view the flight displays and movies on their screens during takeoff and landing. 8. During turbulence, Sarah noticed a man sitting alone at his own window and asked if he would like to switch seats with her or someone else. He hesitated initially, but then consented after being reassured by Maya that she wouldn't cause any inconvenience or discomfort. The middle-aged woman stepped forward, placing an arm around the man's shoulder while holding onto a carry-on bag. 9. As they settled into their new seating position, Sarah realized that this was not just about sharing her seat with someone who shared similar cultural background, but also fostering a sense of camaraderie and understanding between individuals from diverse backgrounds. She had often felt isolated when traveling alone as a Black woman due to the limited opportunities for exposure in various industries. 10. As they chatted, Maya learned more about Sarah's creative journey, which included her work with fashion design brands that used eco-friendly materials while still maintaining high standards of aesthetic quality. This connection between sustainability and creativity struck a chord within May. Chapter 12. The flight to Berlin. Maya Thompson, a Black CEO of a global tech company, sat in first class on her flight from New York City to Berlin. As she boarded the plane, she noticed that many passengers were engrossed in their screens and movies during takeoff and landing. With everyone else focused on their devices, Maya felt slightly disconnected but didn't let it ruin her mood. Suddenly, Sarah, a middle-aged woman with an easygoing demeanor, stepped forward from the back of the cabin to switch seats with Maya. The flight attendant approached them and informed that they had been given complimentary first-class seating for 2 passengers. As she explained their new arrangement, Maya noticed a man sitting alone at his own window by himself. She asked him if he would like to join her or someone else in the row next to her. He hesitated initially, but then consented after being reassured that there were no seats available on either side. Maya introduced herself and the man named Michael, who had grown up in Berlin as a young boy during the city's reinventing period under Nazi rule. They struck up conversation about their shared love for architecture and urban planning. As they chatted, Maya learned more about Sarah's creative journey, which involved her work with fashion design brands that used eco-friendly materials while still maintaining high standards of aesthetic quality. Sarah explained how she had always been interested in sustainability and its role in addressing the pressing environmental issues faced by our planet. She mentioned a collaboration with a German clothing brand that was committed to using sustainable fabrics sourced from organic cotton, hemp, or recycled polyester, which not only reduced their carbon footprint, but also provided fair labor practices for farmers who worked directly under her company's umbrella. As Maya listened attentively and nodded in agreement, Sarah continued by sharing more about the challenges she faced as a Black woman in the fashion industry. She mentioned how she had often felt isolated when traveling alone due to limited opportunities for exposure in various industries. In Berlin, however, she found a newfound sense of community and support from like-minded individuals who shared her passion for sustainability. During their conversation, Sarah told Maya about an eco-friendly clothing line that was gaining popularity among young fashion enthusiasts in the city. The brand's unique approach involved designing clothes made from recycled materials, using innovative techniques to create intricate patterns, and partnering with local artisans to ensure fair labor practices throughout its production process. Maya listened intently as Sarah described her company's commitment not only to sustainability, but also inclusivity. She learned about their efforts to empower women of all backgrounds by offering training programs for aspiring designers in underprivileged communities across the globe. Maya was intrigued and asked if she could learn more about the program. Sarah explained that the initiative aimed at empowering young women from diverse backgrounds, particularly those who were facing barriers to success due to financial constraints or lack of access to education and professional opportunities. The program provided funding for creative workshops, mentorship programs, and job training in various fashion industries, including design, production, and retail. Maya was impressed by the company's dedication not only to sustainability, but also its focus on creating value for society at large. She knew that as a leader in her industry, she had the power to inspire change and make a positive impact, not just within her own organization, but across the global community. As they continued their conversation, Maya asked Michael about his life story. He shared how he grew up in Berlin during World War II, witnessing firsthand the devastating effects of Nazi rule on his city's infrastructure and culture. After the war ended, he returned to Berlin as a young man with dreams of creating something that would contribute positively to society. Michael explained how his passion for sustainability led him to pursue a career in technology, eventually founding a company called Green Tech. The company focused on developing innovative eco-friendly technologies that not only addressed environmental challenges, but also provided sustainable solutions for businesses and individuals alike. With the support of like-minded partners, Green Tech's products revolutionized various industries by reducing their carbon footprint, improving energy efficiency, and promoting circular economy practices. Maya was fascinated by Michael's story and asked him about his current role at Green Tech. He explained that he had been appointed as its CEO following a successful investment from a prominent venture capital firm known for investing in sustainable technology companies. The company's mission is to leverage cutting-edge technologies to create positive change, particularly in the transportation sector. Michael shared how the COVID-19 pandemic served as an opportunity for Green Tech to innovate and develop new solutions that could help reduce air travel carbon emissions while promoting social distancing practices during public gatherings. They introduced a line of reusable face masks made from biodegradable materials sourced from local farms and plantations, ensuring their products not only met strict environmental standards, but also contributed to the circular economy. Maya listened attentively as Mike Hale discussed Green Tech's commitment to sustainability, inclusivity, and social impact. She knew that her company had a significant role in shaping the future of sustainable technology, not just within its own organization, but across the global community. As they continued their conversation, Maya realized that Sarah was right about Berlin being a melting pot for diverse cultures and perspectives. The city's history of reinvention under Nazi rule, coupled with its vibrant startup culture and commitment to sustainability, presented an ideal environment for artists, designers, and innovators like herself. Maya asked Michael if he would be interested in collaborating with Green Tech on the Green Berlin project. This initiative aimed at promoting sustainable practices not only within the city, but also beyond its borders by working with organizations that shared their values and goals of creating a more equitable and environmentally conscious future for all. Michael was intrigued and appreciated Maya's vision, particularly given her background in fashion design and her understanding of the social impact of technology. He agreed to explore the possibility of partnering with Green Tech on Green Berlin, while also sharing his knowledge about sustainable technologies and their potential applications. The conversation continued as they shared more ideas for projects that could leverage Green Tech's products and services, such as promoting renewable energy sources in public transportation systems, developing eco-friendly waste management solutions, and supporting local communities through innovative green spaces initiatives. Maya was impressed by Michael's passion for sustainability and his dedication to creating a positive impact on society. She knew that their collaboration would not only help drive the transition towards sustainable practices, but also inspire others to follow her lead in advocating for change at a global scale. With renewed energy and determination, Maya asked Michael if he could arrange a meeting with Green Tech's leadership team to discuss potential partnership opportunities further. They exchanged contact details and agreed on a date and time that would allow them to explore the full scope of their collaboration. As they prepared to depart from Berlin for her next destination in New York City, Sarah expressed her gratitude for the opportunity to meet Maya Thompson and Michael, both dedicated leaders in sustainability and innovation. She knew that their partnership could make a significant difference not only within Green Tech, but also across the global community, paving the way towards creating a more sustainable future for all. As they boarded their respective flights back home from Berlin, Maya felt grateful for the experience of connecting with Sarah and Michael on this journey to sustainability, both personal and professional. She knew that their collaboration would serve as an inspiration to others who shared her passion for making a positive impact on society through technology. She looked forward to continued conversations with Green Tech's leadership team and sharing their innovative solutions not just within the company, but also in promoting sustainable practices across the globe. With each passing day, Maya Thompson became more determined to be at the forefront of creating meaningful change in the world, one step at a time. Global Outline. Maya Thompson, a Black CEO of Green Tech, is humiliated in first class when her flight attendant rips her ticket and a passenger claims she doesn't belong. They don't realize that she runs the tech company powering the entire airline. This event marks the beginning of their collaboration at Green Tech. The two leaders were working together on a groundbreaking project to develop a sustainable aviation industry, aiming to reduce carbon emissions and promote environmentally friendly practices among airlines. 1. Maya's humiliation. In the moment, Maya is shocked as she receives her first-class ticket from the flight attendant in Berlin for a business trip to New York City. She immediately confronts the stewardess about the incident, demanding to know why someone would steal her ticket and claim she doesn't belong on their aircraft. The flight attendant's reaction: they appear surprised by Maya's sudden demand, but also take note of her extensive background in technology and sustainability. After reviewing her boarding pass, they realize that it matches a different passenger with the same name as Maya Thompson. 2. Passenger claiming identity theft. As the two leaders discuss their collaboration further, the flight attendant informs them about a potential issue involving identity theft on board. The passengers on board have reported receiving tickets for seats belonging to someone else and are suspicious of the authenticity of these duplicates. They share this information with Maya, who is now caught off guard by the accusations against her. 3. Investigation. In an effort to clarify the situation, both Maya and Michael engage in a detailed investigation into the potential identity theft scam. The team discovers that there have been similar cases reported on previous flights, leading them to suspect that someone may be impersonating Maya Thompson or one of her colleagues for financial gain. Challenges faced by Maya. As they investigate, Maya faces numerous challenges in navigating the complex system of airport security and identifying the perpetrators. She is aware that public awareness about identity theft can sometimes lead to false accusations and wrongful arrests. Additionally, Green Tech's reputation as a leader in sustainability may be at stake if any missteps are made during this investigation. Collaboration with security team. Maya turns to her team for help in unraveling the mystery of the identity theft scam. They work together to review security footage from previous flights, look into flight data and passenger records, and gather witness statements. As they delve deeper into these investigations, they also need to keep an eye out for any suspicious behavior or individuals who may be acting on their behalf. 4. Initial leads. The team uncovers a few potential leads in the investigation, but remains cautious due to the risk of false positives. They cross-checking flight records with Maya's passport and travel itinerary, as well as conducting interviews with passengers who have reported similar incidents, reveals that none match her identity or any information about her colleagues. Red flags. Despite their efforts, they spot a few red flags that may indicate foul play. For example, some of the stolen tickets are listed on social media platforms and forums frequented by individuals involved in illegal activities. They also discover an unusual pattern among the passengers who have reported similar incidents. Many of them belong to networks or organizations with known connections to criminal underworlds. 5. Investigation continues. As Maya's team continues their investigation, they uncover additional evidence that suggests a more organized and systematic identity theft scheme involving several accomplices. They identify individuals involved in various illegal activities, including money laundering, drug trafficking, and cybercrime, who have been using green tech as the front organization to execute these schemes. Tracking down suspects. The team enlists the help of law enforcement agencies from different countries across Europe, Asia, and North America to assist with their investigation. They work together to gather intelligence about each suspect's whereabouts and past criminal activities, ensuring a coordinated global effort in bringing them to justice. 6. Collaboration with law enforcement. As they close in on potential suspects, Maya works closely with law enforcement officials from various countries to ensure that the investigations are conducted according to international laws and standards. They share information about their findings, evidence, and witnesses, as well as coordinate efforts for apprehending these individuals within a global justice system. Legal proceedings. After successfully tracking down several suspects involved in the identity theft scheme, Maya launches legal proceedings against them under various relevant anti-money laundering, AML, regulations, and international criminal laws. She files charges against them for their crimes, including money laundering, terrorism financing, cybercrime, and other related offenses. 7. Community impact. As a result of these investigations and legal actions, the Green Tech team becomes an advocate for responsible and sustainable aviation practices. They work with regulatory bodies to ensure that airlines adopt enhanced security measures, such as biometric identification systems, passenger screening procedures, and more stringent anti-money laundering regulations to combat identity theft and other forms of financial crimes. Collaboration in sustainability. The collaboration not only results in a legal victory, but also showcases the power of collective action against criminal enterprises. Maya Thompson's leadership at Green Tech inspires others to join forces with her in creating systemic change through technology. She becomes an advocate for sustainable aviation, sharing her knowledge and expertise on how companies can contribute to reducing carbon emissions, promoting green energy alternatives, and enhancing safety measures. Continued support. As the legal proceedings unfold, Maya continues to support the Green Tech team by providing guidance on regulatory compliance, technical assistance, and community outreach. She also works with organizations like governments, nonprofits, and industry partners to raise awareness about the importance of sustainable aviation practices and their potential impact on global health, economy, and society. 8. Global impact. The legal actions against identity theft scheme actors not only bring justice, but also serve as a catalyst for broader change in the airline industry. Green Tech's collaboration with law enforcement forces results in increased awareness about the risks of such criminal enterprises and inspires other companies to adopt more robust security measures, including enhanced background checks, risk assessments, and training programs. 9. Inspiration and impact. The events leading up to Maya Thompson's humiliation in first class have sparked a wave of change within green tech, as employees from different backgrounds become allies in the fight against identity theft and other forms of financial crimes. They recognize their responsibility not only for protecting themselves, but also for contributing positively to society by creating innovative solutions that promote sustainable practices. 10. Continuing story. With the legal battle behind her, Maya Thompson continues her journey as a leader within green tech, pushing forward with plans to integrate new security measures and sustainability initiatives into all aspects of their operations. She remains committed to driving change through technology and inspiring others to join her in creating a more resilient and environmentally conscious global aviation industry. 11. Global impact. As Maya's name becomes synonymous with sustainable aviation efforts, she continues to inspire generations to come by sharing her vision for a future where air travel is not just green, but also safe, accessible, and equitable. Her leadership at Green Tech serves as an example of the power of collective action, demonstrating how technology can be used to drive positive social change in areas like environmental protection, economic development, and public health. 12. In rewritten story. Maya Thompson, a Black CEO of Green Tech, stands humiliated on her first-class flight from Berlin back home after being falsely accused of an identity theft scam involving the stolen ticket for herself and one of her colleagues. The incident has brought attention to Green Tech's reputation as a leader in sustainable aviation practices and sparked concerns about security measures within the industry. The flight attendant who initially confronted Maya noticed the similarities between her boarding pass and another passenger with the same name, leading them to investigate further. As they reviewed their data and witness statements, it became apparent that there had been a series of similar thefts reported on previous flights, all involving stolen tickets belonging to Green Tech employees. Maya's team began an extensive investigation into the identity theft scheme, utilizing various tactics such as analyzing flight records, reviewing passenger lists, interviewing passengers who have reported similar incidents, and cross-referencing with law enforcement agencies. They discovered that a network of individuals affiliated with criminal underworlds was behind these schemes, using Green Tech as their front organization to execute illegal activities. With the help of international partners, Maya's team worked tirelessly to identify potential suspects in various countries across Europe, Asia, and North America. As they narrowed down the list, several red flags emerged. Some stolen tickets were listed on social media platforms frequented by individuals involved in criminal underworlds. There was an unusual pattern among passengers who had reported similar incidents, and many of them belonged to networks or organizations with known connections to illegal activities. Maya's team engaged law enforcement agencies from different countries to gather intelligence about each suspect's whereabouts and past criminal activities. They worked closely with international laws and regulations, sharing information on their findings, evidence, and witnesses, as well as coordinating efforts for apprehending these individuals within a global justice system. As they closed in on the suspects, Maya became an advocate for responsible and sustainable aviation practices. She collaborated with regulatory bodies to ensure that airlines adopt enhanced security measures, such as biometric identification systems, passenger screening procedures, and more stringent anti-money laundering regulations to combat identity theft and other forms of financial crimes. The legal actions against these individuals in Maya Thompson, a Black CEO of a tech giant that revolutionized the global aviation industry, was on her way to attend an important business conference in Paris when she was humiliated by a flight attendant. The incident occurred during a first-class seat on a commercial airline's international flight. As Maya settled into her seat, she noticed a row behind her and quickly reached for her ticket, only to find it ripped open with the words, "Doesn't belong." A passenger sitting next to her claimed that the woman in front of them was not authorized to board the aircraft as per their contract. The confusion surrounding Maya's identity and her role at the company did not end there. She quickly realized that she had been working tirelessly to identify potential suspects across Europe, Asia, and North America. The team assigned to this case worked closely with law enforcement agencies from different countries, sharing intelligence on each suspect's whereabouts and past criminal activities. They delved into social media platforms frequented by individuals involved in the criminal underworlds, searching for any suspicious activity related to Maya's company. As they uncovered more evidence linking these suspects to illegal activities, several red flags emerged. Some stolen tickets were listed on popular travel booking websites, which often attract people from criminal networks looking to cash out their funds without detection. Additionally, there was an unusual pattern among passengers who had reported similar incidents, all of whom claimed that the person in front of them did not belong on the flight. Many of these individuals belonged to organizations or networks with known connections to illegal activities. Maya's team engaged law enforcement agencies from each country and worked closely with international laws and regulations, sharing information on their findings, evidence, and witnesses. They also collaborated with regulatory bodies to implement enhanced security measures at major airports worldwide, such as biometric identification systems, passenger screening procedures, and more stringent anti-money laundering regulations. The legal actions against these individuals were launched simultaneously in different countries based on the gathered intelligence. In Europe, they arrested a suspect who had been involved in multiple fraud schemes involving stolen airline tickets. The French authorities seized over $10 million worth of cash and electronic devices belonging to this individual, as well as several other related entities. In Asia, an arrest was made for a man with a criminal record who had embezzled funds from the company's operations while working on their international expansion plans. This suspect was responsible for stealing tickets from different continents, using them as cover stories to evade authorities and continue his illicit activities. The Chinese government swiftly conducted investigations into this case, resulting in a substantial arrest warrant. In North America, another arrest was made for an airline executive who had been involved in multiple fraudulent schemes involving stolen aircraft ticket sales and unauthorized use of company credit card information. This individual was identified as the mastermind behind several high-profile fraud cases that exposed the vulnerability in global aviation security measures. The authorities arrested him, and his assets were frozen, preventing further financial losses for both Maya's company and its clients.